Purple Robe here, and today I'm reviewing the Judd Apatow two-part documentary, George Carlin's American Dream. Now, full disclosure, I'm possibly the biggest Carlin fan in the world, and since I was young, many moons ago, I've had lovely fantasies of breaking his ankles with a sledgehammer and chaining him up in my spare bedroom so that I can keep him all to myself forever. Fortunately for the world, that never happened, but I can remember quoting lines from his HBO specials to my school buddies as far back as 1982, which should tell you how old I am. Judd Apatow, writer and director of such comedy hits as The 40-Year-Old Virgin, Knocked Up, lovingly tells about one of, if not the greatest and most influential comedian of all time. Certainly, if one were making a Mount Rushmore of comedians, Carlin would be on it. And as an aside, going through Apatow's credits to pick out some for this video, I realized I don't particularly care for his stuff outside of The 40-Year-Old Virgin, which I found hilarious. But he knocks this one out of the park. Of course, the source material gave him a huge head start. And I don't want to bury the lead here, so I totally loved this documentary. I highly recommend it. I mean, I could tell you all about this film in paraphrase by giving you a brief history, a summary of the events of Carlin's life, but I'm not going to do that. You don't want to hear that. If you want to hear about that stuff, you'll watch the show. You should definitely check it out. I will tell you that I've personally seen every one of his televised stand-up specials multiple times through the years. I have basically all of them memorized. I've read his books. I've watched as many interviews with him as I can find on YouTube, as well as seen his appearances, both being a guest and hosting Johnny Carson. The point is, I know a lot about him, his work, and his life, and despite that, all the info about him, even the stuff I already knew, was interesting and enjoyable to watch in this movie. I especially loved how there were various notebooks and letters and all sorts of musings that he wrote down, whether they were ideas for his comedic bits or just random things he was thinking about during various times of his life that we get to see in his own writing. Or at least they were intended like that. I actually wondered how authentic they might be if they're a facsimile. Either way, it looked really cool. Carlin's life story in the movie takes us through all the normal, growing up, his family, and how he got his start in show business, and his amazing evolution as a comic, as well as his personal life with his wife and daughter, and his well-documented drug issues. Everything about him. There were moments that brought genuine tears to my eyes, and a lot of it was very, very serious. And those were probably some of the best parts. And of course, there were plenty of laughs, despite the fact that I'd already heard 90% of the jokes. And they weren't all taken from his big specials. And what I mean by that is, so he would do, say, Carlin at Carnegie on HBO. But then he would tour with the same act all over the country for months at a time. And while I could repeat every nuance of Carlin at Carnegie, this film would have him doing the same act at, say, some show in Houston. And it's all the same jokes, but they're told totally differently. He hits the punchlines. He inflects words in ways that I've never heard. It's like when you've heard the studio album of some band like a million times, you know it, perfectly in your head, but then you go to see the live show and it's totally different. It's totally cool. This is sort of what that was like. And also, we get to hear from a plethora of comedians who were either friends, admirers, or both. I mean, are there any comics who Carlin didn't inspire? The list of folks interviewed is quite the who's who of comedy. People like Chris Rock, Jerry Seinfeld, Bill Burr, Patton Oswalt, Bette Midler of all people, Paul Provenza, Kevin Smith, Paul Reiser, Alex Winter of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure fame, Stephen Wright, Jonathan Stewart, Stephen Colbert, and a bunch of others I'm probably forgetting. And then there's the more personal interviews from people like Carlin's daughter, Callie, or his wife, Sally, his manager, Jerry Hamza, his older brother, Patrick Carlin, who sadly died just about a month before the film was released. And so there you have it. I can't recommend this movie enough. I think Apatow did a fabulous job, given the thousands of hours of footage Carlin has created over the years. He sorted it all out, made an incredibly enjoyable narrative that lasts over 3.5 hours, which is no easy thing to do, to make a 3.5 hour narrative like that, entertaining throughout. And whether you're already a huge fan like me, or you've literally never heard of the guy at all, or you fall somewhere in between, I think you'll still enjoy this documentary about this truly legendary figure. Well, that's all for today. Purple Robe out.